Welcome to my Hebrew channel. I am continuing my studying in Ruth 1 verse 5, the first chapter here, using the ancient codex, using an ancient manuscript. And it's one way of looking at the more personable aspects of the passage. So Ruth 1 verse 5, this is the closing verse of the initial introduction to the narrative. The first 5 verses are basically what happened to the family when they went over to Moab. From verse 6 onward, we find Naomi and the two daughters-in-law traveling back to Judah, back to Bethlehem. And so that's an important change or important milestone in the story. Right here, we find ourselves closing off the last part of what happened over there in Moab. So let's get on with the story. Now, kindly find a good English translation so that you can have that on hand. And our verse actually starts Kesher Shanim for about 10 years. Okay, and then there's a siluk and a sof pasuk. The sof pasuk is jammed right in here, ending in verse 4, and then verse 5 begins here. And it's Va Yamutu Gam Shnehem Mahlon and Chilion Beteshaer Haisha Me Mishne U Ave Yeladcha Meisha, and then again Siluk Sof Pasuk ending verse 5 right here. So the kibbutz here is gives us a sense of reflexive. This person then died. They died also. Okay, so this is a plural form. Yamot would have been. We had that already for Elimelech, but Yamotu, that's a plural then. And it's a plural because the two individuals here, Mahlon and Chilion, they both died. And it says also, okay? Now, what's happening is Elimelech dies, and then on top of that, and on top of that, and on top of that, it's just like one tragedy after the other. Things are really very, very tough here. So there's a makef here, joining this particular word to the next one. Shnehem, the two of them. Okay, the two of them. This is a masculine plural pronoun. This suffix pronoun here, the two of them, okay, the two of them. Mahlon, Mahlon is the sickly one, the one with the smooth skin, and this one was then the husband of Ruth, and then Chilion was the husband of Orpah. So even though in the first introduction to the story where we read the introduction of the two women, they are introduced as Orpah and Ruth then finds herself in the second in the second role, but her husband apparently was spoken of first. And then when we get to the end of the story, we'll find Mahlon repeated again as the husband of Ruth, and his name then is restored via the marriage that Ruth then has with Boaz. The name of the fallen are restored through restoring the family. So Shnehem, Mahlon, Chilion. These are very much emphatic nuns, and they pump up the story. It makes it ironic because it pumps up the name of people who are weak. So supposedly strong people, no, they're weak. No, Mahlon, Chilion, and they both pass away. So Va Teshar, and we've seen this verb before, and she was then left over. She was left alone. She was left desolate. And with children, there would be children, men working and helping her. But if these two have died, really in the society, there's nobody that would protect her, care for her, watch out for her. She's truly and really on her own. She's away from her extended family. And even though these young men have married Moabite women, she has no role. She has no place. She has no safety net to care for her or hold her in place over in Moab. And even the way they talk about Moab is fields of Moab. there isn't really a political entity that she can relate to. It's just simply open fields. So Betesher, and she was then left alone, left desolate. And who is this? That's Ha'isha, the woman. Okay, the woman. And this then it does have direct has a direct it's a definite article here, Ha'isha, feminine ending, of course. In the feminine, the yod is not found. The masculine, the yod is found. This is the masculine form over here. This is the feminine form over here. But it does have a feminine ending, okay? Ha'isha, the woman. So she was left alone. She was left desolate. That is, the woman was left alone. Meshene, from the two of Yeledcha, the two of her children, two of her offsprings here. Yeled is a child. And it's one way of saying, oh, these people are very immature as yet. They haven't pumped it up even to Ish or Na'ar, but still just children. Yeledcha, and her two children, the two of her children. So Yeledcha, her two children. This is a construct, plural form, and it has a personal pronoun of her at the end, possessive pronoun of these two children then. And now the reason the conjunction here is with suruk, because the mem here is a labial. So it's the same mem that we find right here, although here we don't have a conjunction in front of it, we just simply have from. And from her two children, and this is from her husband, okay? So me is from, and ish, isha, this is husband of her. Okay? This is Yeledcha, that is children of her, and this is husband of her. Notice the comparison here. The root of being a person, or each one, is aleph shin. In feminine, you have just an article, and then you have the feminine form of isha, the woman, and here you have isha. Now this last isha right here, with the mapik, the comments, the he mapik, is a personal pronoun, suffix personal pronoun in feminine, husband of her, okay, man of her. And so this is very much parallel to children of her. In this case, it's both of them are indicated via comments hey, and this one is comments hey. In this case, the writer or the copyist felt no need of putting in a mapik. Here, mapika is in place, giving a little stronger pronunciation to the hey, to the isha, but also reminding us of its personal pronoun suffix function here. Husband of her, okay? Her husband. She was left alone. She was left desolate. She was left without any kind of help. As I said, this is the closing verse of all the events that happened over at Moab. From here on, in fact, starting right here, these are the next few verses, the next few words of the next verse, verse 6. Vetakom he vekelatecha. And we're going to get to that study, but that's, so right here, it's everything that's happened in Moab, and now she's getting up and she's leaving and she's heading back. And so the story continues in the travels that take place between Moab and Bethlehem. So from here to the end of the chapter, they are traveling. They are on their way then from Moab here to Bethlehem. So yeah, it's been a tragic story. When people go their own way, when people figure that they have their ways or the pathways figured out and do it the way that they want to do it without any resorting to what the will of God would be, there are consequences and people can suffer. She found herself in a very, very bad way. At the end of chapter 1, Naomi is blaming the Lord for all of this, but she finds out soon enough that the Lord is gracious, wants to redeem. The Lord sends a redeemer in the person of Boaz, and Naomi discovers that most certainly the Lord stands with her, not against her, even though she uses the last 3 or 4 verses of this chapter to complain about how the Lord has been standing against her. That's not true. That was a bad argument on her part, but that's what she felt. But that wasn't really the case. So when we find ourselves in a bad place, don't blame the Lord. Look to yourself. Look to the promises He is making. Look to the future, and look forward to God being faithful with you, with me, and all those who have suffered loss, who've suffered trials and troubles, just like Naomi did here. But the Lord is always there to care for His people. Sometimes in ways that we don't understand, sometimes in ways that can take a little longer than what we expect, but the Lord most certainly stands with His people. So may God bless, may God strengthen you in this day until the next time.